13 of the picks are going to be up for questioning. Leader Thune told us last Sunday he suspects a lot will get through, but we'll see about all of them. Which nominees are you certain will be confirmed by January 20th?
Republicans are now in the House, the Senate, and the White House because Americans wanted safety and prosperity. So you're right. The rubber hits the road this week with all of these hearings on the cabinet. And then when President Trump takes office next Monday, there is going to be shock and awe with executive orders, a blizzard of executive orders on the economy as well as on the border. So when we met with President Trump earlier this past week, what President Trump said the number one goal for the Senate needs to be to get his team in place. I've met with just about all of them. I support every one of these nominees. As the whip, my job is to make sure they get across the finish line, get on the job, and President Trump deserves a team early.
Almost 50%, half of federal government managers, according to an RMG research survey, who work in Washington, D.C., say that they will work to resist President Trump and his agenda. Well, President Trump's team has begun arriving here in Washington, D.C. President Trump's advance teams are boots on the ground here in Washington, D.C. This comes as no surprise, right? You know, the 42% are openly saying that they are going to resist President Trump, of federal government managers, in this RMG research survey that's come out. And keep in mind, that's just the people who are publicly acknowledging it, right? I'm sure that number bounces up to probably, 80, 90% when really push comes to shove. Benz, let's talk past the sale here, right? What should the American people and what should this movement really be on the lookout for as we go boots on the ground into Washington, D.C. and President Trump's advance teams begin arriving?
Well, every single person who expresses an intent to resist the edicts and authorities duly granted to the executive branch should be promptly and immediately fired. And if firing them is not possible because of bureaucratic protections, they should be transferred to the Siberia office of whatever organization within the federal government they are a part of, so that they can be...
Wait, Benz, hold on a second. Don't you mean Greenland office?
No, the Greenland office will actually be doing something. At least that
northern
serves some
Greenland,
strategic
far northern
utility. The great mistake of Trump 1.0 was basically, not heeding the parable of the snake and the frog, that you let these people in, you let them keep their jobs despite, all of their attempts to sabotage the government from within. I think this time around, there have been many lessons learned. I think part of the mission of DOGE is to cut government programs that have gone rogue. I'm extremely heartened by the fact that we killed the budget the first time around during that omnibus fight in November. And that was done because rogue organizations like the Global Engagement Center were getting reauthorized when everyone knows all 250 members of the staff there are diametrically opposed to the Trump agenda that was voted democratically by the people of the United States. And so we literally shut down the budget during that fight until a new one came out that refused to reauthorize that. That should be done. That mentality needs to go into the Pentagon, needs to go into DHS, needs to go into FBI, needs to go into the National Science Foundation, needs to go into USAID. We have to have a strong hand this time around because that's the only way business gets done in Washington. This is the point that I was making about the failure of Trump 1.0 under a kind of suicidal libertarian pact to be hands-off with Facebook as they were censoring the world. And so, meanwhile, the censors who are willing to use government power, who are willing to use government resources and government action to pressure towards censorship, there was no counter pressure. There was no government pressure on the other side of it. And we saw the power of that once it was applied. Once Congress did act against the Disinformation Governance Board, once Congress did act with the Weaponization Committee subpoenaing 10 different government agencies and holding hearings and hauling everyone in for transcribed interviews. Pressure works. Action works. And action has to be taken against members of the resistance within the government. They can resist all they like in a civil society group with a cute little fellowship or sinecure outside the government. But if you're a part of this executive branch, you follow the chain of command, which goes straight to President Donald J. Trump.
I've got a great idea. Listener Wuhan Clan just shot this in the comments. I think this is wonderful. How about we mandate that in every federal office, every single worker has to start the day with a public Pledge of Allegiance. You have to get up and you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, just like elementary school. By the way, I would have been totally fine with that. I'm sure you would have been totally fine with that, Benz, when you were in the State Department. But I'll tell you one thing, 30% of people would walk out the door on day one if they were mandated. At least 30%. And over the first year, look, you would drain the swamp all by itself.
It's like sunlight to a vampire having to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in the federal government for so many of these people. I mean, they take a pledge to self-interest and then they call themselves global citizens, arguing that being faithful to the United States, who they're only in office to serve, is some sort of treason to the world. And of course, this is not some humanitarian bona fide that they're earning by doing this. It's their own paychecks and salaries to all the different organizations and stakeholders on the outside of government who want to use the battering ram of government to achieve their own financial gain. So let them do that on the outside. But the people voted for reform. The people voted to take a sledgehammer to these rogue agencies. And people on the inside who are not going to carry that hammer can get hammered by it, frankly.